Well, and going back to that dream, and we'll move on
Yeah.
after this real quick. Uh, the son, the boy, leads him into this cave, and there's light, there's darkness. It's kind of childlike, it's playful, but there's also this horrible creature in there as well. And that's just the world that we
Yeah.
live in. Our world is
Yeah.
filled with light and beauty and childishness and love and all that sort of thing. But there are also horrible creatures lurking around too that are and that's just the representation of the world that we live in. There's good and bad in this world, and I think that's kind of what McCarthy was getting at there with this dream. And in this world, in the world of the road, there's a whole lot of darkness and a whole lot of bad. But there's also,
Yeah.
even in the midst of all this death and destruction, there's still some good there. And he talks about the boy. I really like what he said on his pages 3 and 4 in my book. He says he only knew that the child was his warrant. He said that if he is not the word of God, God never spoke. And you mentioned finding God, and I think that the boy here, that's what the father, he refers to him later on as possibly being a God, something like his top value. The boy is the father's top value, and he knows that the boy is a blessing, and their time together is to be cherished. And that's we're going to talk about that here more today, but that the boy is a gift from God, and he was given from God to the man, and it's the man's job to be a responsible father with the boy, even in the midst of a world that's been destroyed.
Well, do you think that maybe is what McCarthy is saying when he says each the other's world entire, that they're in the midst of, in an earthly sense, they're in a terrible world, but the real world that they are living in is the relationship they have with each other, which has a lot that is so good and so hopeful.
Exactly. That's their world. And we'll get into this a little bit later. That's the boy is the father's reason for living. And we'll talk about his discussion with his wife and all this other stuff, but he wants to spend as much time as he possibly can with the boy. That is his world. The boy is a revelation, a divine gift of life. He's meaning. He's a reason to keep on living, to keep on shifting through the ashes of a dark and dying world. No matter what the world is like around them, as long as the father and son get to be together, then that's meaningful, and that's what the father wants. And that's, again, a gift from God.
And that's what's, in a way, that's what's real, and not the passing things around them, however terrible they may be. I don't know how, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, every minute they spend together is precious. The boy is his motivation. Everything his entire life is built around the boy. And he is the reason, the boy is the motivation to bear the hardships of this world. And that's one thing I really respect about this character of the father. I will bear all these other hardships. It's all worth it just so I can spend time with my son. And that's what keeps pulling me back to this book, because I can identify with that, and I can respect that. In a lot of stories, you don't get characters that you really respect. I really respect Father in spite of his imperfections. Everybody's got their imperfections, but I really respect his devotion to his son, his divine responsibility as a father to this boy.
Yeah, I like that too. I like having something to admire in the character, and you sort of go through the experiences they've had and maybe learn something from the choices they make that can help you in your life. I mean, you read a lot of books where the main character is just terrible and just awfully corrupt, and I guess there can be a point to that too, but I like having something you can identify with the main character that you want to be, not just something you want to avoid being.
Right. It inspires you to be better. Something, or inspires you to follow in that character's footsteps, to follow that example. McCarthy is very good about acknowledging the danger, and the father in this book doesn't just push the danger aside. He's very aware of the danger, and he takes on his responsibility of being the protector. And again, that's worthy of the reader's respect.
Well, early on in the book, the father is coughing blood, right? So the father seems to know from the beginning that he may not have much longer. I mean, it's the sense he is literally pouring out his life to get his son somewhere. We don't know where or what good that's going to do, but I don't think he knows either, but that's almost the sense that I have, just pure self-sacrifice. Whatever bit of life I have left in me, that's for you, to get you somewhere.
Right. They don't know exactly what. They just know that down south has to be better than here, wherever they are.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what. And the son asks him, are there people there? And he's like, we don't know. We just don't know, but we're trying to move toward a better place. And one sentence, and this is where we got the title of this podcast episode, said, then they set out along the blacktop in the gunmetal light, shuffling through the ash, each the other's world entire. And we mentioned that, but I want to mention that one more time. The father's whole world is wrapped up in that boy, and the boy's whole world is wrapped up in that father, because that's the only relationship that they have. I mean, it's not like humans are scarce, and then humans that you do run across are potentially very dangerous threats. And so they really only interact with each other, throughout this whole book. I mean, there's some examples or some exceptions, obviously, but that I really like the way that he encapsulates the entire dynamic of their relationship. They are each other's world, and these characters show that too. We mentioned McCarthy being really good about describing. He doesn't just say that the father loves his son. I don't think that those words are ever uttered in this book, but the way the actions that the father takes on behalf of his son really prove that there is a genuine love and affection there.
Yeah, exactly. And they have these conversations, and I'm not sure any of the conversations are on their face particularly profound. I mean, they are sort of ordinary day-to-day exchanges. I mean, a lot of just trivial stuff. I mean, they don't necessarily seem super noble or super deep in everything they say, but you get the sense that there's something more behind there, and you do see the father's real selfless love for the boy, I think.